Hey everybody, I'm Mohammed. I'm the 3D designer and I did the rest of the visuals for the cardboard town. Today I'm going to talk to you about the animation system and how I built the building parts in Blender and how I textured them, because so many people have been asking me about it. So initially we planned to do the buildings one by one, like a single model, and I would have to rig them all one by one, and that would be a lot of work. So instead of that, we decided to make the buildings modular. So I had to design single building parts one by one and then bring them together in Unity and then animate them so that we can make buildings as much as we want and as much as we need. So I'm going to show you some examples of the building parts right here, starting with the cube. Right here you can see the rig of the cube, the armature. So let me show you how I rigged the single cube. You can see it's splits in parts so that we can animate them in Unity. So we have many of these building parts, including a roof. I started showing them in Blender so that you can see the start of the project. So it started right here, the visuals of the project and the models of the project, and then of course you have to texture them and import them into the Unity. And I did not animate them in Blender because that's a lot of pain to export the animations to the Unity version. So, and I'm very comfortable with animating in Unity, so I decided to animate the buildings inside the Unity. First I'm going to show you the building parts like these, but textured, also animated inside the Unity. For example, this is just a single cube. This is a very basic component of pretty much any building. It exists within pretty much any building, so I have animated them right here. I'm going to show you a single animation. Animating in Unity is always easier for me because you don't have to export them again and again, and you know, of course animating in Blender, especially characters wise, is much easier because it gives you more variety of tools. But this is a very simple rig, and I have marked every single bone right here inside the unit, so it's not a problem to find them and, you know, with a single click and animate them easily. So that was the start of the building process, animating every single building part one by one, including roofs and satellite dishes. Some of the animations are just so simple because this will be a very small component of the buildings. You don't have to rig them up because that would require a lot of time, especially for something so small. It doesn't look so small in the screen, but it looks very small in the game. Bigger components like roofs, of course they were rigged, as you can see here, and then animated. Walls, they are relatively small, so I didn't rig them. And then of course you have to bring them together separately, one by one, and then you have to export them inside the game. For example, this building exists of, as you can see, many building parts, different cubes, different roofs, different columns and pipes. It's just like a real building being built brick by brick. And then of course the animation has to happen step by step. To ensure that animation happens step by step, I have made a script, a very basic script, to delay the animation of the building parts. And you can see this script right here is very basic. I'm not good at coding or developing, so that's all I can do. I'm sure there's a more efficient way of doing this, but this is the way I did it. And this system gives me a lot of artistic expression. Like I can exactly decide where a component starts, where a building part starts, and where it ends. As you can see, here's the animation delay. For example, this column has a delay of 0.15, which means after animation starts playing, it starts for 0.15 seconds and then starts playing, so that I can build the buildings step by step. Let's have another look at the game. Here's another example of a building I want to show, and you can see the building parts being animated one by one instead of at once, like from bottom to top. And of course I had to texture all of the building parts one by one, and all of the buildings require different parts, different drawings, different textures. And of course I textured all the building parts and they are all different buildings. They require different textures. So For example, this is a post office cube consisting of a door and three windows, and I used that specifically for the post office and pretty much nothing else. This is a very basic cube. I use these pretty much on the population buildings and pretty much nowhere else, so that was a lot of work to do. As you can see, this is only cube textures and materials I used for the game, and we have many more different building materials. For example, air condition, it's just a single drawing pretty much. It's not a lot of work. But roofs, they can be a lot of work because they are different. They consist of different buildings. For example, this is a fire station. This is a fire station texture I used in the game. It consists of different colors because game kind of uses a color coding system. When you see these colors together, you know it's a fire station. It's a way of communicating the player that pretty much every different building with different function also has a different visual. And other than that, of course, we have roads. Roads had a different way of working. The roads are more code driven rather than simple animations, so because they have to be responding to where you place the road. For example, if I place the road here, they connect. Two road pieces connect very well. If I place the road right here, it has to connect to the left of the road piece you are going to connect. So it works more code driven rather than simple animations. Of course there are animations, but how they play is decided by the code. And other than that, the road art wasn't that difficult. One road drawing and one pavement drawing and textures, that's all. Pretty much that's all. And apart from the buildings, we have little gadgets that you can play with on the table, as you can see. And you know, we have created an environment that resembles cardboard game, or more like board game. And it's like playing with your friends on a table. Of course, it's not a multiplayer game. We have a coffee, and we have some coins and a pen, but we are going to add more items on the table, of course, in the future as the game progresses and the development progresses. And of course you can interact with those items, and I also did the code for the interaction of these items. Very simple. As I said, I'm not a good developer. I barely know what I'm doing, and I ask a lot of questions to our developers too. And as you can see, you can slowly interact with those items. Maybe you're frustrated because you did something wrong, and you can just come over here and relieve some stress, or just play with the items. If you have any suggestions about what we could, design and put on the table, well, feel free to suggest them on the comments. If you like your idea, we will surely make it happen. And I have to mention, for every building we have many building parts, and all these building parts have animators and building part delay scripts, like components on them, which means your computer has to do a lot of work to bring them together and present them to you on the screen. And for a single building, that's not a lot of problem. Your computer can easily handle it. But for hundreds and hundreds of buildings, it'll be a lot of work, and it won't be optimal for you to run this game on your computer, and most likely lag and create FPS issues, and we had to overcome that. And having a lot of models in the buildings mean your computer has to do a lot of draw calls. You want as little draw calls as possible while running your game. So we had to overcome that by creating fake buildings that look exactly the same as these ones, but they are not consisting of different parts. And I'm going to show you right here. Right here you can see the residence building, and the residence building's original version is this, which means it really consists of different objects, as you can see here. Many different objects for your computer to process through, and that's a lot of work. It's not a lot of work, as I said, for a single building, but at the end you have to swap it with a fake version, which is right here. And I'm going to close the original one. It's gone. And this, it looks exactly the same, but it's a single mesh, many different materials on it. So it's like we glued the original mesh together and swapped it with the original mesh. After it plays its animations, it's done. It has no use, and we have to swap it with the fake mesh so that your computer can easily process hundreds of meshes on the screen. And I can't pull it apart. It's a single mesh, unlike the other one. This mesh I can pull apart easily. For example, this cube I can move away. This is a different cube, but you see what I mean. That is how we optimize our game. This is how it works. And we also created a ghost mesh for you to see while you're building the buildings. Placing the buildings, more like. It has an arrow on top of it so that you can see which direction you place your building towards. And this arrow shows the direction of the road that you should face with your building. So in the main prefab of the building, we have 3 different models. One of them is a ghost model that you use while you place your building. You see where it goes. And then when you place it, the original prefab starts playing, and after you're done with the original prefab, like after the animation, you can't see the animation right here because it's not in the games, but this consists of different parts, so it's going to animate. After this is done animating, right here we have a wait time for mesh to wait for it to finish animation. These are just manually decided, and then the optimized mesh takes its place. You can see it, it happens so fast. Then you can render as much as you wish, like on your screen, 100, 200, 300 of buildings without any performance issues. And I also want to mention how I did the card arts and the rest of the stuff involving the cards. I wanted a folding animation for the cards to play. Pull them from your deck. So right here I created a card prefab, and the card prefab consists of 2 different parts. The building cards and action cards, and also the road cards share the similar system. Like they consist of 2 different parts, one at the top and one at the bottom, and each of them has a canvas in them so that you can, you know, convey the information, whatever information you want to convey inside the card. For example, it has a description right here. For an example, we added the police station's description right here to see how it looks, how it operates. And it looks confusing, I know, but at the name part it says water treatment plant. It's just to see the, you know, the longest description and the longest name, how it looks here. And I want to show you the animation of the cards. Cards have different animations. For example, it starts with a card fold-in animation, which you can see right here. It's a quick, very quick, it's a 1 second long animation. You can't keep it long, it's going to look very boring, and considering the player is going to see these animations hundreds and thousands of times, it's not going to be good if you want to keep it long. And it could be a very good animation, but it's once you see it, you've seen it. So you have to make it, especially in games, as short as possible, especially if the player is going to see it over and over again. And this is the animation that plays when you play the card and also discard the cards. And this animation doesn't play like that, it actually travels inside the game, and the travel of the card is driven by the code, so it doesn't look like that at all inside the game. I'll show you later. And this is the card destroy animation. When you don't discard or play your card, it's simply destroyed. There are 3 possibilities for your cards. It's either played, discarded, or destroyed. And this is the destruction animation of a card. And it definitely adds some flavor to the game, and it was necessary instead of seeing the cards come and go. That is how we dealt with them. And not all the cards consist of 2 parts. Some of the cards that don't act like building, action, or road cards, you just get to choose them. For example, upgrade cards. It's just a single card. It's much simple. It doesn't have animations for now, and same goes for the festival cards. And of course, I did the illustrations for all the cards: action cards, building cards, and the festival cards, and the upgrade cards. Of course, they needed to be exported as well, and it was a lot of work, but I like where it's headed art direction wise. For example, the festival cards have more vivid colors, and they look like prints, like they have the print marks. And building cards look like simple drawings, like on a blueprint. It has the aesthetics of a blueprint mostly, and it works fine. I like that it is simple. As long as you can tell the buildings apart from themselves, it works. It never exactly looks like the building it represents, because you can't convey a lot of detail inside that small area, small square. So you put in as much as detail as you want, and then you're done with it. As long as they look apart, I'm okay with it. I don't mind it. And here's an action card, and art style for the action card is a bit different because it looks more like a blackboard, and illustration looks more like a, you know, chalk drawing on a blackboard. And like we are trying to differentiate the different cards, at least with the art style. It's not a big difference, but it makes enough difference that the player can tell them apart. And of course the color of the card helps. And we have the quest cards. The only difference in quest cards is red, and you want to warn the player that it needs to be played in a certain amount of days inside the game. If you don't, then you gain the red alert and it looks red, it's warning. That's the function of the card mainly. And other than that, we have the upgrade cards, and this looks like a whiteboard and it looks like a marker. At least I intended it to look like a marker drawing, and that's how we differentiate between the different card types art wise, to communicate to the player that, you know, they are different. Thank you for watching. If you have more questions, you can always ask them in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to wishlist the game if you haven't already. I hope you like it, and talk to you later.